Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith. And today I'm talking about Voices by Kit Power. This is from Black Shuck Books. It is part of the Black Shuck Shadows line. It is number 17. And thank you to Kaylee Dobbs of Happy Goat Horror, my bestie, for sending me this book along with a couple others from this line. But we're here to talk about this one. This is a short story collection. The Black Shuck Shadows books are a series of micro collections featuring a selection of peculiar tales from the best in horror and speculative fiction. So this is, obviously, Kit Power. And we have 8 short stories in this collection. And it's always difficult for me to discuss short story collections because I'm very, very worried about giving things away. So first of all, for the Too Long Didn't Watch crowd, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. It's a nice selection of stories. It's a nice variety of stories. But it didn't absolutely blow me away. So 4.25 stars out of 5. Really, really liked this collection. So now, again, very difficult to talk about short stories because of worried about spoilers. It's a mixed bag, as with pretty much any short story collection out there, whether it's a single author short story collection or a multi-author anthology. You're going to have, generally speaking, you're going to have favorite stories, you're going to have least favorite stories, you're going to have stories that fit anywhere in between. I don't know that I've ever read a collection where every story was absolutely a banger, despite what I said in my co-review with Kaylee Dobbs of Stephen King's You Like It Darker, where I said every story was in the top half of my favorite stories in the collection. I don't know that I've ever read a collection where every story is absolutely fantastic, or a collection where every story is just terrible. Always a range. And we have a range here. Some of the stories are absolutely horrific. Some of the stories have almost a Twilight Zone feel, or a Clive Barker feel, or the very first story gave me the voice in which it's told gave me a Lovecraftian feel. Just the style in which it was written has that sort of weird tales narrative. Excuse me, narrative feel. I'm not saying it's a Lovecraftian tale, just saying the voice. And here's the thing. The voice of each story is different. What do you know? It's called Voices by Kit Power. I don't recall if every single one is in first person. I feel like they are, except there's one that may or may not be. It's hard to... There's one that's difficult to parse. I think. Depending. But I think all the rest, except for one, are very straightforward first-person narratives. And each voice of each narrator is different. So the first story is Baptism, and it is, well, the very first line. So, you would have my confession? Very well, I give it freely. So, it's a confession of something. I can't say. Like a Charm. I really, really liked Like a Charm. It's about a cop who gets a good luck charm. And that's all I can say, once again. But I really like the way it's told, and it's an interesting story. This one very much has a Twilight Zone or a TV anthology series type of feel to it. Big Dog is... There's a narrative within the narrative. And I think I can say that well, actually, let's make sure I'm talking about the correct story. Yes, Big Dog. So the narrative within the narrative is about the Pied Piper, and it's sort of what happens after the story of the Pied Piper that we all know. Or, I don't know nowadays. Do people know the story of the Pied Piper? But that's the narrative within the narrative. I can't tell you what the outer shell narrative is, because I don't want to give anything away. All Loving, All Knowing. I think this might be... Yeah. I really, really liked this story. It might be my favorite. And again, this is the one that isn't a straightforward first person type of thing. And I can't really tell you anything about it. I will read part of the first sentence. 30 seconds before he took the knife from his kitchen into his living room. That's just the first part of the first sentence. That's all I'm giving you. That should be, that's a tease. But yeah, I think this is probably my favorite story in the collection. Next up we have Enemies, which is hard to describe. Again, they're all... I'm not really giving you any descriptions. But it's about a person confronting his enemies, but not in a conventional way. Pulling Teeth, possibly my second favorite. And again, these are all people telling us these stories. Some of them in just a traditional sort of first-person narrative style. But some of them are very much feel that the narrator is addressing us specifically. And I like that. Pulling Teeth, I found to be a very fun story, and it's quite a number of these have a bit of a little twist at the end, a little punch in the gut that has a great last line. The Hand would be my least favorite. And that's not to say it's a bad story. Just out of all the rest of these stories, it's the one that's my least favorite. It's about a guy playing poker, and there's a lot of poker jargon. The first part of this story, and it's possibly the longest story in here. Can't say for sure. Felt like it. The first part of it is just a lot of poker talk. A lot of poker play, a lot of poker talk. But then there's a point where this character shows up to the poker table and adds a little drama, a little more. It becomes a little more interesting because of this character who's just an asshole, but adds a little more flavor to this story that's been a little dry with all the poker talk and stuff. I I think this is a story that might annoy people, not just because of the poker talk. If you're a big poker fan, you might find it fascinating. For me, it was fine, but there are elements that I think that might piss off some people. Didn't bother me at all, but it's just, again, personally, my least favorite of the stories. And then the last story is The Garden, and it's just a very quick, very short story that I really can't say anything about because it's that short, and it would give everything away. But very, very good story as well. So basically, that's it. I don't know what else to say. I've tried to. They're all very well written stories. I like that each one has its own unique voice. I like the variety. I absolutely need to read more Kit Power, one of Kaylee Dobbs' favorite writers. I believe her favorite independent writer. And I have read now. The first thing I ever read from Kit Power was a nonfiction book, My Life in Horror, Part 1 or Volume 1, whatever it's called, Book 1. And then, again, I was sent a copy of Millionaire's Day from Kaylee Dobbs of Happy Goat Horror. And you'll find my review. It'll be the one that's linked for that. And now this book. And even when I read Millionaire's Day, I started throwing Kit Power books on my wish list. But it was during the dark times of unemployment, when I couldn't really afford to go nuts and buy all the books that I wanted to buy. But I'm absolutely going to be picking up more Kit Power. I can easily see why he is one of Kaylee Dobbs' favorite writers. And despite the fact that I only gave this 4.25, 4.5-ish, 4 out of 5 stars for Kit Power Voices, it is still a collection that is well worth your time. And I'm definitely interested in digging into all of the Black Shuck Shadows books. The first one I ever read was Kaylee Dobbs' book, The End, which is, can I link 2 reviews, 2 videos at the same time? I've never tried that before. But anyway, we're here to talk about this one. Kit Power Voices, 4.25 out of 5 stars. Check it out. Excuse me. All right. I have no question for this video. Recommendations. I recommend Millionaire's Day by Kit Power. I recommend The End by Kaylee Dobbs, which again is another of these Black Shuck Shadows books. So it's a short story collection with a theme that connects the stories. I mean, if we're talking short story collections, you can't go wrong with Joe Lansdale. If you can get By Bizarre Hands, I think there's By Bizarre Hands Rides Again. Absolutely fantastic short story collection. Stephen King. Do I need to put Stephen King on a short story collection list? He's actually got quite a few short story collections I haven't read. Things that came out in that Stephen King void of my life. But of course, Skeleton Crew and Night Shift are both fantastic collections. There you go. Do you have any short story collections that you would recommend? Let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. Please like, share, and subscribe, all the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, I'll have links for my Instagram and Bluesky in the description below. That's all I've got for you. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith. And until next time, read more books.